Okay, the next question, we'll start with Senator Liljenquist. States are continually feeling like their hands are tied and are constantly passing resolutions to forward to their national delegation. How would you work with Utah's legislature to further the cause for states' rights?
You know, that's one of the major reasons I'm running. Because in the legislature, what we do here is we pass bills and then we wonder if we have permission to do it. We look at budgets and we try to cut them and we wonder how much federal funding we've already been tied to. We've been blackmailed with our own money for far too long. I'm running because the United States Senate was supposed to be a bulwark for state sovereignty where you work with the legislature to make sure the state has what it needs. And in this race, I have the majority of Senate Republicans in our state legislature supporting me openly. Because we have not had the relationship with our Senate delegation that we should have. We passed two of the biggest reforms, we talked about them. Pensions and Medicaid reform. Reforms that should be in front of the Senate Finance Committee, held up to the country. And yet, we're looked over. And I think we've got to have, Utah has the best ideas in this country. And we need to use our Senate positions to make those ideas known to everyone.
Senator Hatch, same question. You want me to repeat it?
Yes, please repeat it.
Okay. States are continually feeling like their hands are tied and are constantly passing resolutions to forward to their national delegation. How would you work with Utah's legislature to further the cause for states' rights?
Well, number one, I am a co-sponsor of the 10th Amendment bill that would reinforce the 10th Amendment throughout the country. I agree with everybody here that the 10th Amendment is absolutely critical, and the Supreme Court has voided that. Now, to be honest with you, I had a major role in having the 5 conservatives on the Supreme Court, and I believe that ultimately they're going to help us. Now, just in the last while, I appeared up at the state capitol with Roger Barris and Ken Ivory, the two sponsors of the Let's Get Our Utah Lands Back bill. I intend to work with them, and we intend to pay attention to what they do up at the state legislature, which we always do. I read everything I can. I've had visits back in Washington. I visit them here. I speak before the 2 legislatures, and all I can tell you is this. I believe we have to bring Utah solutions to these problems, and I want to commend both of these young men for the work that they have done up there. I appreciate it and have a lot of respect for both of them. But we got to bring Utah to the forefront. It's that simple.
Thank you, Senator Hatch. At the age of 46, it's been a while since I've been called a young man, so I appreciate that. You know, this is one of these things. In a 1-minute response, it's very difficult to talk about your record, but this is one of those issues that I hope that you take the time to actually look at my record and look at what I've done. We were talking about state sovereignty. We formed the Patrick Henry Caucus 3 years ago. Got national attention, and helped start the movement nationwide. It's not something that I have just talked about. I truly believe that states are the solution to the problems. My goal as a senator is to go back to Washington, D.C., and actually to make a U.S. senator's position less powerful. Push those powers that the U.S. Senate has, push them back to the states. Make sure that it gets there. And the problem is since the 17th Amendment, the power is shifted to Washington. My job is to go back and claw it back and bring it back to the states. I've done that.
45 seconds.
Let me just say just one experience I want to share quickly. You know, we passed our pension reforms in 2010. Senator Hatch called me, and it was wonderful to get a phone call from him congratulating me. I went to 16 states last year, worked with 39 total, helping them with pension reform. I even lectured together with Gina Raimondo, the treasurer of Rhode Island, when they did their reforms. We lectured together at Harvard on how to fix pensions. There's a disconnect between the legislature and our senior senator. Because earlier this year, he put out a press release saying he's going to run federal legislation to fix pensions in the states. He didn't talk to a single member of the legislature about it. Didn't talk to me, didn't talk to our governor, didn't talk to our treasurer. I look at that and think, wait a second. We passed these big bills, and it's not Washington's job then to come and say, we're going to change Utah pensions. We've already done it.
if I could say one thing. In my whole 36 years in the Senate, I have visited with the state leadership many, many times. They've been in my office many times. The county commissioners have been in my office many times. The mayors have been in my office many times. We have always tried to help them. We have always taken their suggestions and done everything we could to help them. I've visited up there, too, and I pay strict attention to what our state legislators do, even though our job is much broader in many respects because we're U.S. senators. Now, let me just say this. I'm proud of our state. I'm proud of Roger Barris and Ken Ivory. And I'm going to do the same bill back there, and I hope we can get it through. We need to get our lands back and bolster our schools.
Again, I would have you take a look at legislation that was passed 2 years ago. Representative Sumption and I passed a land bill that started the discussion of fighting back with the federal government. I believe the state of Utah holds the key not only to Utah, but the entire nation. We have more oil in Utah, Colorado, and Wyoming than the entire Middle East if we simply have the courage to do it. It would benefit our school children the most. There is no reason. It's unconstitutional according to Utah's Enabling Act. The federal government should not have control. Our founding fathers recognized that if the federal government owned that much land, they would exercise undue influence on a state. If ever there was a state that has had undue influence by the federal government, it's the state of Utah.